1. Madam Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, in 2020, HYBE acquired 90% of Pledis, well above majority stake, while also allowing them to operate an independent label to cater to smaller and new artists. That's something I suggested to my point of information early as Prime Minister, and I'm not entirely sure what side proposition's case is, but I'll engage with both. Are they not okay with majority, meaning 50%, 90%? Or are they also against like the whole thing in itself? Or are they just not okay with the tail end 10%, given that I mentioned in my pre-oration, they acquired 90% in 2020? I'll engage all those frames so that it's good. What this means is that there is a precedent for Pledis wanting to be able to give majority or 90% share, since that's something that happened already. Since then, their biggest poster child of Pledis, who is 17, one of the biggest and most popular groups in the space, have gotten a lot of success, especially since they transitioned under HYBE 6 years ago. And what that did was that it put 17 in a huge success, and I think continuing this kind of acquisition or even defending a full 100% acquisition is going to be a triple victory. It's good for Pledis, it's good for HYBE, and it's good for the artist. It's good for Pledis because it allows them to be able to take advantage and say, yes, you know, this was something scouted by us, it's homegrown, but now it's also good for HYBE, which is something that Pledis also wants, because they also want their stars to be able to reach the next level. And that's ultimately important for them to reach their full potential. A few strategic observations of Top Half Clash. Let's talk about opening government. Opening government thinks in extremes, and we think that it's not as simple as, oh, you go with HYBE, majority share, or total acquisition. It's going to be bad. Both of these are business-oriented, and there's going to be a nature of a negotiation to structure the terms of this acquisition. Even if it's a total acquisition, which is something that we're meaningfully going to extend the burden, given the matter we told you coming from opposition, we think it's particularly good because it allows other kinds of bands to be able to reach a particularly good trajectory like what they had with 17. Besides, in status quo, again, since 2020, they've already been allowed to manage a small independent label. And I think that's something that can still be negotiated even in the case of a complete and total 100% acquisition. Let's talk about opening opposition. Opening opposition is broadly right, but a lot of the things they say are asserted mechanisms. These are not weighed, these are not impacted. I'm not entirely sure why these are likely to be able to happen. Something that I think opening government gladly or is able to call out. So, what is the path to victory coming from closing opposition? It's quite simple. Number one, why majority stake or the status quo 90% is not enough, and even to the full extent of why is a full acquisition good. And I think this is particularly good because I'm going to explain later on why 90% is still not enough. Number two, something that I think opening teams missed because they jumped onto these things. What exactly are the interests of Pledis? Because the response to one of my POIs was like, we don't care about the artists, we care about Pledis, right? It's not about the fans. But we also have to understand that these particular groups are also part of Pledis' interest, especially at the point in which they already do run an independent label with the direction of HYBE, which has existed since 2020. So, to the new kinds of artists who want to become the next 17 or have another shot at stardom and fame through HYBE with Pledis as a conduit, they want to be able to acquire talent and be able to grow this talent. But for instances like 17, for example, who already have reached success, they want to continue to grow that. They want to retain them as a particular talent. This is quite good, and this is something that is in the interest of Pledis. It's not as simple as about being money. Now, why is 90% right now not enough? It is because in order for HYBE, who already has majority share, to prioritize you even more, because right now, under the rule of law, they literally have to prioritize their fully acquired kinds of labels, meaning the 100% HYBE labels get more resources, get more attention, get more capacity over those who are just less than that, meaning the minority get less and those below that get even less. So, if we want them to be able to be treated particularly better and have negotiation capacity, it's quite good to be under them. Why is that? A few mechanisms. Number one, the exponential increase of competition that makes it very hard for Pledis to do it themselves, even if they want to. They need that trajectory and fuel that HYBE is able to put in order to push them to further kinds of capacities. Number two, lower purchasing powers of people generally, given economic crises, inflation, and generally more kinds of competition. Number three, the ever-changing trend and life cycle of a girl group or a band or an idol. That is to say, they have a limited shelf life. They can't just be deprioritized forever. And the irony is that if we want HYBE to prioritize the Pledis talents better, they need a full, complete acquisition so that they can be able to be given limited resources. But the other side saying, oh, just be Pledis. But we have to understand, the cases of 17 are few and far between. You have other kinds of way bigger successful groups like that of BTS, La Seraphim, New Jeans, Cat's Eye, all of which were only possible to be known by all of us today because of that HYBE deal, which ultimately makes it particularly better. Why will prioritizing allow them to be better for you? It's very simple. Stakeholder responsibility. Legally, because of limited capacity and scarcity, they want to be able to prioritize you, and we need a first mover's advantage for any idol group, whether it be old and trying to compete with giants or new and looking to emerge, to be able to have that clout and exposure to a fan base early on as opposed to later. And we need the leverage that they currently have, given the 90%, to now be 100% so they become treated better. Now let's deal with CG quite quickly. Number one, guys, Blackpink is under YG Entertainment and not HYBE. So that examples outside the debate. Secondly, it's a very simple kind of response. 90% of a grape versus 20% of a watermelon. I'd rather be the medium or small-sized fish in a bigger pond because at least I'm able to grow and I'm able to manage the independent label while also potentially growing and being attracted and marked as someone who is HYBE approved, HYBE owned, and HYBE sponsored to forward not just their profit incentive, which our opening talked about, but also cater it to how the industry works, how they can stand out against competition and be able to help their particular talent, whether it be new ones coming and trying to become the next 17 or existing ones fighting the good fight against bigger beasts. For all of these reasons, very proud to stand on Side Neg.